Welcome to I Am Me podcast. I'm your host, Liz Bachman, and on this podcast, I want to celebrate you for being you. I'm super excited to sit down with my guests each week and talk about their journey, their experiences, and where they came from. So without further ado, let's dive into this week's episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to I Am Me. Today I'm here with my good friend Mallory Ivy. I love her so much. I met Mallory back during the pandemic. We did a virtual Meisner class together. She's a phenomenal actor. She's an even more amazing person, I would say. She also does some modeling, and her energy is just so infectious. So I think if you're not even an actor, you could get so much out of this. She'll just boost your energy. So yeah.
Oh, I
Hi,
adore
Mallory.
you. Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Hanging in. We're enjoying sunshine.
I literally just said, I'm not good. I just said I'm doing the thing where I'm like, oh, I'm good. I'm not good. I'm struggling, but I'm here and I'm excited to be here. So
I'm glad you're here and you're excited to be here.
there we go. And I'm glad that you're hanging in.
Yeah, hanging in.
I feel like that's a new thing that like people are saying.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, and I'm like, of course, a person that picks up the most random things, or I'll say something wrong and think it's right. So,
Yeah.
I have no clue.
Yeah, I don't know. I still like say things I feel like that I said in high school. So whatever.
100%. There was one that came up that I used to say in middle school, and then it brought up the whole, I think I said like bee's knees or whatever. And then my one of my high school friends was like, "Girl, do you remember when you used to say knock your knees out?"
I never heard that one.
That the knock your knees out? Ooh,
Is that a Mallory original?
I think so. I think it was just I was slightly violent as a child, but I would give people a warning. I was like, "I'm gonna knock your knees out. Like, you're being an idiot. I'm gonna knock your knees out."
After I just talked about how great you are, like she's so amazing, she's so sweet, but like she's got a side. Like, don't get on her bad side.
I'm an Aries. I'm a fire sign. I get a little heated, but I be sure to let you know before I throw a punch, I guess.
There you go. You get a warning. Oh my goodness, completely off topic, but I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, dive into acting. Acting is kind of why we're here. I mean, not really. We're here for you. We want to get to know Mal Pal. But what started acting for you? Like, where did that the eye roll? Oh my god. You're talking to someone who's been in acting for a minute when you're like, what started acting for you? And the eye roll is just,
you're just like, that's a funny thing though, is my story is so complicated, and I don't, it's not that I hate telling it. It just feels like, oh, everyone expects like the quick answer, and mine is certainly not that. So what happened was, my neighbor growing up was a producer for Cartoon Network, which is like 30 minutes down the street from where I grew up. So they needed a couple of kids and to do the Cartoon Network Fridays back in the day, and me and my sister would go on it. And my sister ended up hating it, so she left pretty quickly, and I kept going. I thought it was fun. It was nice to meet a bunch of random people. I got to see Chris do the Dinah Lady, which was hilarious. I didn't understand though. Like, I had no idea what acting was.
Yeah.
So like they would put me through auditions, and I couldn't understand that, the Muppet, even though the guy's underneath you, like you're talking to the Muppet, and even though the Muppet's sad, it's still happy, like still be happy. And so like he spilled some M&Ms and I started sobbing because I felt so bad for the Muppet, even though there's a dude on the skateboard right there too. And having to stay on camera or whatever. I mean, I guess it was great because I was natural, and I bent down. They're like, "No, Mallory, you need to stay in frame."
Wait, how old were you?
I think I was like 6. I did it from 6 to 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, see, compassionate heart there. Like,
right. So I was just really young and I didn't know what I was doing. So eventually left, and my parents didn't really want me in the industry. Like they didn't.
Understandable.
Yeah, and I get it. I mean, I was admittedly quite bitter because it was something I fought for, and I would spend my 30 minutes allotted on the computer to look up agencies. But yeah, I didn't get back into it until theater in high school. That was a growing experience. Not the best time in my life. And then in college, I would just audition because I was terrified of it. and I wanted to
Yeah.
get just, I was on the career path to do science at that point and just wanted to have some other outlet. And a friend of mine had an actor drop on his short film, and he was like, "Hey, you can memorize stuff, and you've acted before. I'll buy you a full mellow mushroom pizza if you come to set."
Pizza. I feel like that's a recurring theme on the
I've
podcast.
right
But
that
like, I mean, I would have done it for a pizza.
right. I mean, and especially mellow mushroom pizza. They have
Yeah,
like
it's good
not
pizza.
not sponsored by Mellow Mushroom, but I wouldn't be mad about getting sponsored by Mellow Mushroom. Like
Yeah, that'd be great.
they have the best pizza. So yeah, I did it. I realized how much I missed set, and from there on out, I was hooked again.
That's awesome. I also
Yeah.
like something that is interesting. Like, I talked to Derek in the past episode, the one before
Hmm.
this. We had talked about how like he was kind of doing something. It wasn't acting related, but doing it like he was scared, so that's why he was
Yeah.
doing it. Like it scared him. So I
Hmm.
really like this idea of doing something like doing auditions. Like it scared you, but
Hmm.
you did it. Like because almost because it scared you.
Right. Oh, 100%. Like I'm that person that I don't like to be scared. I don't like to have weakness because I guess I'm invincible. I don't know.
I
Uh
mean, yeah.
yeah. So that was just something I was like, get over it. Like, and
Yeah.
especially because it's a mental thing. If it was like a physical thing, like spiders or whatever, then maybe I'd let it go by the wayside and not torture myself. But especially just because it was me, myself, and I in front of two people, and I would go to the
Mm,
bathroom to puke before every single musical theater audition I did. I was like, this is
dang.
lame. Get over it.
But it shows like how intense like that anxiety and that fear is. I think it's interesting too how many people like have this idea that actors are just like these extroverted people who, and I've met so many actors who are actually very introverted and they're
Hmm.
phenomenal actors.
Oh, a hundred
Um
percent.
and they have like, and some of them have social anxiety. So it's interesting. It's almost like they get to take on this shadow version of themselves when
Mm-hmm.
they perform, which is really cool. Okay, so now where you are currently, what is it that keeps you like drawn to acting? Like, what is it about acting that you're like, I got to keep doing this thing?
Gosh, I can't imagine my life without it.
Mm,
I don't like pegging it down is hard because you're an actor. You know that 90% of the process is just auditioning and getting rejected and doing that
mm-hmm.
over and over and over
Over
again.
and over. Yep.
Um, but I forget. I guess it was when I had the concussion back in 2021.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I'm not able at the time, like I couldn't read my sides, so my parents had to read them to me for me to be able to memorize. And I think that was the most terrifying moment is like, if I can't act again, I don't know what I'll do. Um,
Mm,
so I think for me, it's just exploring characters and exploring the human psyche and why we react the way that we do and getting to play with other people. I think that's the most fun is, and that's why I like film a little bit more is it has to be on the spot. You might not get time to get to know your
mm-hmm.
co-stars.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to make an emotional connection with somebody very quickly, and having that vulnerability, like that understood vulnerability is, I think, very liberating.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that too, the people aspect of it. I mean,
Hmm.
that's kind of where I feel like I say this every episode. That's kind of where this podcast came from, and it's from something different. But I mean, it was
Yeah.
hatched out of multiple ideas, but um I think I've met so many people that I just think are so amazing through
Hmm.
acting that I'm like, dude, I just want to sit down and like spend an hour like interviewing you, talking to you, like where you came from, how you got to where you are.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's kind of where that came from. But like on the acting aspect of it, completely agree. Originally, when I started, I was like, oh, like it's about me, like the like thing that you fall into. I not
Right.
everyone, but I definitely my ego was like, and then as I did more and more work, got more comfortable in it. I was like, no, like the fun is when you and your scene partner are like both showing up and you're putting all your trust on your scene partner's putting all your trust on you, and like y'all are just like just back and forth, back just
Hmm.
that's the fun.
Right. Well, and I think I can't remember if it was Dustin or Clayton Landy. Well, and Clayton.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, that for people that are listening, we met in the Meisner class with Dustin Lewis and Ileana Marianis, and then Liz took a class that I've also taken with Clayton, Landy, and Ileana.
Yeah,
Um,
phenomenal
oh
class.
gosh, wonderful. I think it was Clayton that, you know, he uses strong language. He was like, I don't give a rat's behind about what, like, you, what it's about is your partner. Are you caring about your partner and how they're reacting? Like, do you see at all what's going on in their brain?
Right.
If not, you are so internalized that it's selfish, and it's hard for you to get out of your head like that. Like, it's,
Mm-hmm.
you're leaning more towards yourself instead of character, and even to
Mm-hmm.
the point of being a caricature instead of just being present. um,
Right.
but yeah,
I
that
th-
was something cool.
I think mindfulness and presence is something that shows up so strongly in acting, and people don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily realize that.
Oh
And
no.
I think I'm learning that still, like
Oh,
absolutely.
100%. I think Meisner was like exactly what I needed, because it has been training me to be mindful and to see like how people perceive the way I interact with the world and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's personally something I struggle with, is I don't, social cues and like the way that people interact, I don't necessarily pick up on. And like I also notice through Meisner that I look at people's lips instead of their eyes when they're
Mm-hmm.
talking. So I
Yeah.
figured I might need to go get my ears checked.
I think, yeah, it's interesting too, like when you start watching yourself back,
Oh yeah.
the way you hold tension. Even like watching myself back in this podcast, like when I've
Mm-hmm.
watched back, I even now, like this is only like third episode, I'm like trying to be aware of it. I'll hold tension in my upper lip. Like, and I like to where it's like
Oh,
tight across my teeth. Like I don't know how to do it when I'm sitting here thinking about
sure.
it, but when I watched it back, I'm like, why is your lip so tight? Like,
Ooh, have you ever heard of Alexander technique?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's very much centered around where do you hold stress in your body,
Tension,
and
yeah.
natural, like your, it focuses on your tics, like what do you do subconsciously that you're not recognizing. But
Yeah.
that's super cool. I love
It's
watching old stuff that I did
mhm.
and
Mhm.
seeing the growth, because I don't know how it happened, but I happened to find a self tape that I did back in college when I still had no idea what I was doing. Like I was just winging it. I hadn't taken a class. Oh.
Girl, same. Same. There are some projects that were like on my reel at one point that I'm like, I hope to God nobody ever sees these.
Oh.
Like,
Oh, there is one in particular that I have in mind, that it was my first ever film getting back into the industry. And I drove 2 hours to go to the premiere and everything. And I was like, oh, that's how I look on camera. And I had driven with somebody else, and he asked me, he's like, do you want to talk about it? And I said, mm-mm,
nope.
nope, I'm gonna go eat some ice cream in the apartment and do better.
Yeah, right. I always think it's interesting too when you get really excited to like show somebody like your work,
Mm-hmm.
and like you haven't seen it yet, and they're like, I finally got it. Gather around. Hear ye, look at my work. And then they look at it and you're like, hmm, mm, I have some work to do. Like I am still very much learning slash growing. So
Right. Which, I mean, the first thing I'll say is that that's the best part about acting, is we're always learning.
absolutely.
Even A-listers are in classes, and that's just, I feel
And I
like
think
every
people
good
don't
actor
know
is.
that.
Right. They don't think of the work that goes into it
Oh
all the
my
way through
goodness.
the industry.
I was Tom Holland. I was listening to a podcast he was on, and
Mm-hmm.
he was talking about his acting coach that he's got on set. And
Yeah.
like, and people, like there's acting coaches on set to help you, to guide you. So
Mm-hmm.
it's which further adds to that it's not about you. Like that collaborative mentality
Right.
that comes with this like art form is you're working with other actors. Sometimes you literally have a coach, like
Mm-hmm.
coach and mentors and all of that. I think in any way form, this is such a tangent, but in any way shape or form in life are so like undervalued or underutilized.
Oh,
um
I think both, honestly.
yeah, I think people don't realize the benefits of having a coach, not just around acting, but even if you're an entrepreneur or anything, just like having a mentor, somebody you can,
Yeah,
such a that was a tangent.
I love it.
Yeah, so all around the bush.
When have we ever stayed on topic though?
Right, I know. I'm trying to really hard. I keep like looking at my like questions, and then I'm just like, what is happening?
Whatever.
Um, acting. I'm gonna be about acting.
Yes.
I love you so much. What was we talked about your first job. What was your
Yes.
first like paid job, or how, or what was that experience like for you?
The first paid job I did.
Yeah. Do
I
you
could like I'm
remember?
that's what I'm trying to do. I was like, when which film did I get paid on? Because I used to do like a bunch of scary films and like shorts
Mhm.
that were paid. I mean, of course, like minimal. It was all like, we'll pay for your gas to drive down here and,
Oh yeah, you're not
give you a
making bank.
stipend. No.
Yeah.
Well, and you never really make bank in acting.
Yeah.
Another thing that people don't realize. But I think the one that impacted me the most was I wasn't even acting. I was standing in just to see. It was a big film came to Birmingham for the first time, and it ended up being horrible. I mean, just a lot of lawsuits, and I won't go into that. But
Jeez.
yeah, but I learned a lot of what the industry is and what it takes to do what we do, and
Mm.
saw all sides. For the first time since like 2000, I saw grips and cameramen and how everyone works together. And even though I was standing in, I wasn't, they called me to set and they never needed me, was part of the issue. So all the departments realizing that it was kind of a great mentorship opportunity for me. Literally, I think it was week 2 or 3 of like a 5, 6 week set. Each department would take me under their wing for a couple of
Oh, that's
days.
so cool.
Yeah, and I think it was wonderful because there is like some fine lines and some danger to them doing that. But I mean, I learned how to PA. I learned how to AD. I learned what a script supervisor does and
Yeah.
grips, and I felt more confident, even though I might not really want to do it. I felt more confident going to set. But for a while, I wanted to do grip and electric,
Wow, I
actually.
didn't know that.
Yeah, so I did the stand-in job, and somebody from that set actually booked me my first paying job on a crew after that. And I was supposed to do grip and electric. I was going to intern with a really wonderful team, and their AD dropped. And so the director reached out. He's like, "I need an AD. Are you willing to do it?" And I said, "Like, all I've done is watch these people on set do it, and I've seconded before, but I haven't been in pre-production process. I haven't done this. Like, I will be going in blind." And this director, who I've worked with several times afterwards as an actor, was like, I have faith in you. Like, we'll figure it out together. And the friend that had recommended me to the job was like, "You'll be perfect. You're gonna do it, or we're not."
When
Like,
when was this?
that was, I had already, I think I was almost graduated at that point. So like 2018.
Oh, I did. So I know, because I know you had done an AD job, I think,
Mm-hmm.
in the course of our friendship,
Oh, 100%.
but that wouldn't have been that one.
No, so that, because of how that went, like I studied up and prepared as best as I could, and it felt very natural. From then on out, I was known in the Birmingham film industry as an AD. And I
Okay.
had trouble getting castings because people would call me when they had a film. They're like, "Hey, I need
Needed.
an AD. Will you do it?" And I'd ask, "Well, have you started casting yet? I'd love to be considered for that." And they're like, "Well, we're not doing that yet, but I really need an AD."
Right.
So I did that for several years. Like I stuck with that for about 2 years before I moved back to Atlanta and said, "I'm not touching AD work again.
Right.
And I would only do it for friends." And then it wasn't until probably this year where I decided, like, okay, I'll consider doing it again. And part of that is just because opera is um, kind of
Right.
similar role, and so I'm already in it daily. And
Yeah. Mallory is working at the opera. Is it?
yeah, the Atlanta
Yeah.
Opera as an operations manager.
Ayo,
So, hey, woo woo.
actors hustle. I'm telling you.
Hey, and I'm thankful that like my hustle is still in the industry. I think if
Yeah,
I were to do what I used to do, like 7 jobs between like candle making and nannying, and I would be so bored.
yeah. I've been there though too. Like I feel
Hmm.
like every actor, not every actor, but a lot of us have the like, yeah, I'm working 4 jobs right now.
Right.
The conundrum of
Ugh,
acting, finding a job that you can also at a moment's notice be like, hey, I booked something. I'll be gone for 2 days or a week next
right.
week. You know.
Well, and that's what I love. The 2 jobs that I found were the most flexible with that was restauranting. And part
Mm,
of that was just like I got a thick skin, and I was like, all right, if I worked at one restaurant for probably 3 years, and usually that was not the case. That's the only place like I've worked the longest. Um, but every job I ever picked up, I said, hey, if I get an audition or if I get a gig, I'm not going to come to work. I will do everything in my power to cover my shift, but I will not come to work. And there was one situation where a lot of people were not able to come in, and I got a last minute gig out in Tennessee, and I had to drive out. And I told Erin, I said, hey, I got a gig. I'll try to find somebody to cover my shift, but I have to leave today. And she was like, well, you need to find somebody to cover your shift. And I said, yes, of course, I'll do my best. But if I don't find someone, I'm leaving. And I ended up not finding anyone. And so she gave me an ultimatum. She's like, if you don't come in, you're fired. I said, cool, I'm not coming in. And then she did end up hiring me again afterwards.
yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah, it's just the ability to be flexible, be like, okay, fine, this is my passion. I will find another job.
right. I think it's funny too that you're up front because I'm always up front and my dad has always been like, don't tell the boss that. Like
That's what
don't
my dad says.
when I get an interview, I'm always like, okay, so like I'm an actor and like if I book something, like I same thing. I'll try and get my shift covered, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna. And my dad always says, don't tell them, don't do that. Just you know, and I, but I keep getting jobs, so it's working out. It's working out.
Right. Well, like sometimes it will bite you in the butt. Like I have
Yeah.
had a couple of jobs that were strict in their boundaries and good for them, but they did not want to hire somebody like me, and that's fine. But I've also not had a period where I could not find a restaurant job.
Right. Yeah.
Especially now there's so many places hiring, and as many people that don't enjoy it, it's still income, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh, I hate restaurant work. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But yeah, I've absolutely done it and I
Hmm.
would do it again if I had to.
Yeah.
Um as I say a little prayer as I say that, God,
Please
please
don't.
don't make me. But,
Right.
like
Another one though that I really enjoyed was working with a small Etsy shop.
okay, cool.
I have no recollection of how I found this job at all. I mean, it honestly might have been a Craigslist thing, which is
Lord.
terrifying. But I do remember going to the interview and kind of being nervous because it was at her house, and she requested that I meet her in the basement.
Oh god.
So I was a little nervous, but it was at the time I was working on a show. Was it? I think it was Mamma Mia, or no, it was Private Lives. So I was working on a show, and it was halfway of my drive to the show, and she was at just a candle shop or a candle maker, and she had her whole Etsy shop in her basement, and it was wonderful. Of like, I could essentially choose my own hours. She's like, as long as you get the candles finished for orders, I don't care.
I
So
didn't know about your Etsy job.
did you?
When you said candle making a minute ago, I was like, "What?"
Yeah,
I
that
feel like all
was.
these jobs make actors better actors because we're like, yeah, I've lived that part. I've been
Oh,
that waiter. I've been that cashier. I've
oh, a
done that
hundred
thing.
percent.
I've
But
been a candle maker.
right, it's you've done all the odd jobs, and it's character building. Like
Right.
working in the basement by myself, burning myself on boiling wax that smells like pumpkin spice. Like and working. There was one time that was the time I was working 7 jobs. So I was working either nannying and candle making in the morning, and then the evening I was going to rehearsals, working at a lab, and princessing and a restaurant. And
Yeah.
and so it
Just so
was
people know, princessing isn't us sitting around being a princess. It's dressing up like a princess and going to a party for kids.
so kind of the same, but you have to. It's like adult, not adult, like character driven babysitting.
Yeah.
Uh,
And princessing sounds like I'm just
princessing.
sitting in my bed waiting for Prince Charming.
Right.
Just
But
kidding. Us princesses don't need no Prince Charming, but you know,
say it again
m-
for the people in the back.
modern woman.
Oh, but yeah, it was just funny. I remember just feeling like having it, just a surrealness to it of walking into this woman's home in the middle of the night. She's got a family and everything. And just, I hadn't done my candles that week. And so I had to work from midnight to 2 after my lab job. Or I'd go to the
Jeez.
lab from, I was on night shift at the lab. So I'd go in from 9 to like midnight 1. Uh, and just being the only person awake, the only person working by myself. It was
Just yeah.
odd. So
Yeah.
odd.
The weird stuff. I will say I'm gonna go ahead and just manifest this for you. You're gonna get like a Hallmark movie where you're a candle, like Hallmark Christmas movie. You're a candle maker that's been stuck in your hometown for years, and in comes Joel or something from New York, the big city,
Oh,
and
yes.
you haven't seen him since high school, and he
Ooh,
falls in love with
juicy.
you and the art of candle making.
And we make out over a pumpkin spice candle. Like, you want to smell it?
Oh my god.
Honestly, not a bad idea. Hallmark, if you're listening, let's
Right.
write the
You got to
script.
cast Mallory though. Just
Right.
saying.
Well, and you
She's got the
you write,
experience.
right? Or I know
I write
your roommate.
music.
Okay, because I know your former housemate used to write a lot.
Yeah, Zach. He really likes writing. He's really good too.
Yeah.
But all right. It sounds like you just said this, but I want to dive a little deeper. A little deeper.
Dig a little deeper.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask you what the most challenging part of being acting, and after hearing about the like onslaught of different jobs, that sounds like it. But let's go like past that to
Okay.
what is the most challenging part of acting, like actually performing or doing it, anything around that.
Yeah. I mean, first thing that comes to mind is it doesn't matter what's going on in your life. It doesn't matter if your sister just had a baby. It doesn't matter if you're
Congratulations, by the way. Her
thank
sister just
you.
had a baby.
I
She's an
was screaming.
auntie.
I'm an auntie. Ugh, that's just surreal in and of itself. It's wonderful. But yeah, it doesn't matter what you're going through, where you're at mentally, what just happened before. You can carry that into your work and kind of inform and make different decisions with it. But nobody gives a shit. Yeah, nobody cares, honestly. And it makes sense because if we want to get something done with a community of anywhere from 20 to 500 people, you
Yeah.
have to be available. And so, like, I mean, I remember, like, there's instances where I've missed really important milestones and important celebrations because I was on set.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me really regrets that. And part of me knows that that's what I signed up for.
That's the commitment.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if I care, if it was something important enough to me, I would have quit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that is the hardest is, like I struggle with migraines and going onto set with a migraine and
Sucks.
having to connect with another human is 10 times harder. But like also
Yeah.
recognizing that you've gotten through that before, I
Mm-hmm.
think just and I physically write it down like, hey, today was a really tough day and you still made it through. Or like you are satisfied with the work that you did. You weren't in your head
Yeah.
and you were honest. I think that's how I've kind of picked myself up by my bootstraps in those kind of situations.
Yeah, for sure. I think too, like, so for me, like, I've had moments where I've told my agent, like, I need a break.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I need, and she's wonderful. And I really think good agents can recognize that because she's really about like our mental health and recognizes
Mm-hmm.
the emotional mental toll that acting can take on you,
Right.
especially when you're not primarily supporting yourself on acting. Not that that's different, but when you are doing the thing you love and that is paying your bills and everything, that is different
Oh,
than trying to work 3 or 4 jobs and also make acting primary like concern. That's not the right
Right, or like
word.
making it a priority.
Thank you. Priority. Primary kept coming in my brain, and then I went like primary colors, and then like
Ah!
I was like, what is happening? I'm short
This.
circuiting right now.
Oh, me always.
Somebody
And
reboot me.
well, that's why I end up coming up with so many words. Is just my brain goes somewhere else, and I'm like, well, what is a word that feels like I'm trying to convey?
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you that a really great agent understands when you need to take a break if that ever
Right.
comes about. Because if you are being pulled in 500 different directions and you've hit your limit, your work isn't going to be as good and you're not going to book anyways.
Mm-mm.
You know?
No, it's
Uh,
very obvious. Like,
right.
I've had auditions where like the character's supposed to be down in the dumps, and I'm like, well, I'm depressed as hell anyway. So, and then, but it still just doesn't come across good because
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I really respect my agent. She's always been phenomenal, and I have a high respect for agents who can see when their actors are trying their best, but also see when their actors need a break. And I've always felt comfortable in like reaching out and saying, I need a couple months. Like I
Mm-hmm.
just like I'm drowning a little bit right now, or and life
Yeah.
and the other thing is your agents don't know. Your agents don't know if like your mom gets sick, or if you got fired from a job, or like life continues to happen and hard things come up. So
Mm-hmm.
and your agent is taking care of, however many people's on the roster, 100 or more people. So
Right.
how do you feel like you stand out in the industry with it being so saturated?
Um, I feel like this is like forcing me to be slightly egotistical.
No, okay. Well, what's funny is like I ask everybody this question, well,
Yeah.
actors, and I never have to answer it for myself. So I it's a tough question, and
Yeah.
be a little egotistical, like brag on yourself a little bit because you have put a lot of work in. So
Right.
you
Well,
have the permission, not that you need it, but go for it.
thank you. Well, and I also feel like I feel like this is another Clayton quote that actors have to be a little egotistical or else you would never survive. You have to know what you're
Yeah.
worth and you have to know what you bring to the table. Um, for me, I feel like that it's I do have like I'm naturally very bubbly, but there
Mhm.
is, as Ileana likes to call it, I'm a mandrake. So under the surface, there's somebody that'll just rip you a new one or just like lose her mind at the flip of a switch. So I think that's something that plays to my favor, especially because I feel like I look like I have bigger eyes and I feel like it makes me look a little innocent. And so having that malicious side is a bit unexpected.
Yeah.
But also the fact that I worked in science so long.
Okay.
Unfortunately, like I still look a little too young. I'm still hoping for like a good doctor moment where somebody hires me as a scientist, even though I look like I'm 20.
Right.
But like I was working in a laboratory since I was 13.
Okay. I didn't
And
know it was that young, but
yeah,
wow.
I got like pulled into a lab when I was really young and did it for 10 years. So I think having that knowledge and like a really strong background and like a degree even in science is
Hmm.
something that not a lot of people can say.
Yeah.
And I have had like a couple of people give me auditions because when they say like, "Oh, we're looking for a scientist or a microbiologist," I'll always plop in there like my favorite microbe. And I always get questions of, "So we heard that you have a favorite microbe. How do you pronounce it?" And it's a cool conversation starter too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like that's what makes me stand out. And like I'm also just I'll go into things head first. Like I
Absolutely.
don't
Yeah.
scare easy. So the number of times that like I had somebody ask me to learn parkour. Cool. Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I did like some stunt falls and there was of course like a stunt coordinator and all that, but they're like, "Are you comfortable with this?" I was like, "Yeah, I love heights. Let's go."
Let's see what happens. Yeah.
Right. If I train properly, like I'm happy to keep doing it. So
Right?
yeah.
That's one thing, like acting. So there's so many things that I'm like, oh, I'd love to do that, do that, do that, and I'm just like, okay, you don't have to do it all right now, but also like that manifestation of like I did boxing for the first time the other night,
Nice.
like legit boxing. I'd done like some other like fighting stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
never. And I had a freaking blast, and I was like, I think I want to be in a boxing movie now just so like somebody can pay for me to train to be a boxer
Oof,
and then I
right?
can go and be like a badass boxer. Like I
I
think
fully
it's
support it.
right? Get my like Ronda Rousey braids.
Ooh, I would love it. Oh,
Right?
that's not a
Put it out in the
problem.
world.
Right, put it out there. Liz is learning to box. Hire her as a boxer.
There we go.
Yeah, I as an actor, well, and just as a human, I have so many hobbies, and I feel like as an actor, we fall into that trap of I want it to be on my special skills list, da 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 da,
Mm,
and then we never put the proper time to actually make it worthy of
yeah,
using.
being on the special skills.
Right.
Yeah.
So like I mean there was somebody that I worked with that I forget what it was. I want to say it was swimming or diving or something like that. Like something that I've been doing for a long time. And they showed up to set and just had no clue. Was not neat at all. And I was like, "Hey, are you doing okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I haven't been swimming since like I was 10." Bro, I don't want you drowning. This puts a lot of pressure on me because you don't know what you're doing.
Was he doing diving?
No, I think we were just swimming because, like, if he was diving, it would have been like a very, very
Dangerous
problematic death, like
situation.
danger.
Gotcha.
I don't think so. It wasn't something where I was that concerned. I think we were like swimming in a lake or something.
Oh, okay, okay.
So like it was shallow. There were people there that like we could pull if we needed. But if he started like, I mean, flapping his arms,
Oh, okay,
it's like,
okay.
okay,
Dog paddling a little
dog
bit.
paddle, yeah.
Um, do you feel like the industry is progressing into more inclusive roles? And like how so? Oh, the eye roll. I
Yeah, the
hate
eye
it.
roll came back. I think there is an effort. I I think we're slowly getting there,
Mm-hmm.
slower than we should.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah, but I think because something that's also happening, or that's still happening and it's problematic, is that we are having diverse castings, but the people in diverse roles are still being stereotyped. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, you're
um,
right.
and like I won't get. I feel like if I get into like any details, it can get problematic. But I don't mind speaking up, but also like I guess like I would speak up and just also say I have a different perception that somebody else might.
Right.
So like for
Also,
instance,
you and I are both white.
right, we're both white, so I can't talk about as somebody that's BIPOC. I can't speak to their experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so, but yeah, I think that we are not doing our best, and
I'd agree.
it's something that I would love it if we cracked down on it. But also, like, how can we force writers and producers to write content that's different, um,
Yeah. I
and
think
cast differently because it's something that's so ingrained too, which sucks.
yeah. That's the other like aspect of it, that unlearning
Mm-hmm.
component. Um which is really hard because you think of people who I don't know 20 years ago came out of school and then they were trained by their mentors and like not excusing any of it, but it gets passed down
Mm-hmm.
and it's like unlearning, and you are seeing people that are slowly breaking that mold, but it's kind of like whenever there's any type of change, the first people to do it are like looked at like as the outcast, or y'all are what are
Mm-hmm.
y'all doing, like it's been working, and it's like has it though, has it been working?
Right. Well, and I feel like nowadays we're at the point where when we do see something different, like everything everywhere all at once, that oh, so good. They they were regarded and
Yeah.
applauded because it was a wonderful film and they did like I mean, I can't speak to Asian culture, but from what I've heard from my Asian friends and how I've perceived it, it did really do justice to Asian families and social upbringing and what it's like living in like that situation. So
Yeah.
I found it really wonderful, and I think we are getting more to the point where we're not shaming people that are breaking the mold. Like A24, their whole
Mm-hmm.
goal is to break the mold. They
Yeah,
want to do something different.
A24, that's funny, Derek and I talked about
Yeah.
that, but it's we were talking about how it's one of the few companies out there that is like really seems like they're trying to come up with very original content.
Well, and you know how they work, right? Like they don't, how do I word this? Somebody else comes up with the ideas and the writing. They just help produce it.
Produce it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. So that's why they don't, they pick and choose what they like to suit their brand, but their brand is also very eclectic and diverse
Yeah,
because they're just pulling
absolutely.
from different people of different backgrounds and different stories. So like you might see something from Ari one year, and then the next year is going to be somebody completely different. So
Mhm.
I think that really benefits them as a company because they're not stuck into one group used to working to each other, used to working off of each other's ideas. They are forced to think outside the box.
Right. I think that benefits everyone. Like I always have been so like honestly like a fear
Mm.
for being like pigeonholed
Oh
into
gosh.
a certain type of role,
Mm-hmm.
or something that you get known as. And I think people break that mold, but I always think Matthew McConaughey, like he
Exactly who
was
I was
rom
thinking of.
coms, and then he like people don't realize that. I think he said he didn't get an audition for like 2 or 3 years because he said
I'm
no
not
more
doing
rom
it.
coms. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not doing it anymore. And there's nothing wrong. Like it can help you get your start, but I think I think about like Melissa McCarthy too. They talk about how people all knew her for like Gilmore Girls, and then when
Mm-hmm.
she started, I don't remember the first thing, like Bridesmaids,
Mm.
Identity Theft. I think those were some of her earlier when you really started seeing her get to showcase her talent as like a comedic actress, and it's like you can do this. And I was listening to her on Dax Shepard's podcast, and Dax he worked with her I guess back years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
he was talking about how like I knew she could do this like 10 years ago, but
Right.
you see these actors that you think, "Oh, they're this way." And then you see them do these different things and you're like, "Wow, like you can do that? That's so good. Like you're amazing in that." It's like, "Yeah, like I'm that's kind of the point
Right.
that you can do different things."
Right. Because I'm human. But I think it was Barbara Stordahl, a casting director that I adore. She loves pulling people out of their boxes and
Love
casting new
that.
people. But one thing that she said, was it her or was it Kim? I can't recall. I'm gonna have to go back and let you know. But somebody that I was in a class with and like really admire said, you can't tell the industry what they want. They're going to let you know what they want from you. And I
Mm,
think that is really true of, you know, as much as we want to get outside the box, especially if you're unknown, the industry is going to tell you what they're going to type you, cast you as,
yeah.
and that's how you're going
Yeah.
to book. And that's what a lot of agents like to know is, sure, we want to know that you're willing to stretch yourself and be flexible and try something that's a challenge, but do you know where you're strong at? And are you
Right.
good at it? You know,
Right.
if you're
Yeah.
strong at playing the doe-eyed innocent girl, but you don't want to audition for those things, so you kind of fight against yourself internally, you look bad and you're not going to get cast. So
Right.
yeah, like you said, it is a good place to start, but then you also have to start setting your boundaries once you get rolling of just, I want to do something
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, and I think still like you can still embrace that because you can play that and that might be what comes to you naturally. Like you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to let that go completely. But because that is going to be that thing your type or whatever. It's going to be the thing that gets you in the door.
Mm-hmm.
Um but yeah, I think okay, this is actually a good segue.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would be like your dream role if you could take away any expect
Yeah.
that's always a hard question too,
Right.
because I like you just said, I feel like we get told a lot like what we
Mm-hmm.
get to play. And so cuz I've even thought about that, like what would my dream role be, because I'm so used to what I get cast as or what auditions I'm getting regularly and those
Right.
types.
Yeah, I think for me, there's two that are like top the list. And ironically, they're more geared towards episodics,
Okay.
whereas I tend to get cast more in features. Features are much
Okay.
more where my strong suit is. And I like features a lot. But um the first one would be a Western that I'd be like a lead female role that has some innocence to her and naivete, but she grows to be a complete badass.
Okay.
Whether she ends up joining a crime group, or she starts standing up for herself, or whatever that may be. Like my first instinct is some of the female characters off of Yellowstone or Walker
Oh, okay, okay.
Independence.
I was immediately thinking of what's her the lead off of Westworld.
Oh,
Rachel
Evan
Evan
Rachel Wood.
Woods. Evan
Mm-hmm.
Rachel Wood, yeah.
Yeah. Which when I was blonde, I got a lot of references to her. And
Really?
at one point, my agent at the time like had messaged me or whatever when Congillionaire came out, and was like, "How
Oh.
did she thought I was Evan?" I was like, "I if I'm getting that audition and you don't know about it, there's a problem."
Right.
So she had a lot of her like wonderful qualities, but that was a moment I just started questioning of what. And of course, like we are in the digital age, so a lot of it could have been comedy and just being facetious.
Right.
But I was just like, what,
Oh man.
really? But yeah, something like Evan Rachel Wood's character. But then another part of me would love, I love dystopian stuff. That would just be a goal in general. Uh, but a scientist or a microbiologist,
Okay.
somebody that's strong, and again, like strong female characters, like not somebody that's going to be a wuss and take it.
I
Um,
mean, yeah, I think it's just so nice to play strong female
a
characters.
100%.
I like too a lot when it's that rags or riches or however you want to say that kind of story where they seem like the underdog and then by the end of it they're, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that reminds me of I didn't watch Good Girls all the way through that show. I don't know if you
Oh,
watched
I
that at
never
all.
watched it. It makes me think of like Scarface and that kind of film.
Mm, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um. Yeah. I. Do you want to talk about the strike at all?
sure. Yeah, I don't mind talking about it. I think
Okay.
I don't. I guess like most of your audience is actors, but sometimes it's great to talk about it. Just release that tension, or at least educate people if they're not necessarily aware.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Say you can say as little or as much as you want.
Mm-hmm.
I Well, I'll let you take the floor. Like, kind of what are your thoughts or what are you thinking about this strike? I think all of us definitely want to get to a place where we can get back working.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I. It's devastating and kind of apocalyptic is very dramatic, but I'm a dramatic
Yeah.
person. Uh, it is. It's hard being in an age where there aren't big projects going on because
Yeah.
of this. Um, but of course, I'm glad that it's happening. Of course, I'm glad that we've banded together and that WGA is striking and SAG is striking. Um, and it's also like opened up conversations in IATSE. The special effects teams
Yeah.
are looking to unionize, which I think is wonderful. I fully support that as well. So I think it's brought up a lot of conversations, as well as conversations with civilians that don't understand what we do. I'm very fortunate enough to have the Atlanta Opera and enjoy theater. So I'm still auditioning for theater productions. I still have a stable job, and it's liberated me and given me the opportunity to work on a lot of passion projects with friends and
Mhm.
start writing. And just even though I set my boundary a long time ago of like my work has value. I am valuable as a person. And I do need to pay my bills. I won't work complimentary anymore. I've kind of gone back on that and started working for free just because we don't have any other projects to work on except for independent projects. And why not
Yeah.
pour into the people that you love the most and support them?
Yeah, I feel like I've gotten into more like creative avenues right now
Mm-hmm.
away from acting.
Yeah,
Like this podcast and which is like in a way I'm like it's got me doing things that I've said I wanted to do and I haven't. So like
right.
that's good. But it's all good. Like everything is happening for a reason. It still is. I think for me, the hard part is like I love actors. Like we
Mm.
are a community.
100%.
And it's I'm such a like my heart on my sleeve person, and I care about people so much. So I don't think so much about how it's affecting me as much as which it is affecting me, but
Sure.
more so how it's affecting like my fellow actors. Also, it's a good thing it's happening, but then you come back to of we're only not even 3 years post a pandemic. 3 years post when a pandemic started,
Mm-hmm.
and then all the effects of that. So,
Right.
you know, we are post pandemic, but I wouldn't even know when to say the pandemic really truly ended, like maybe
Yeah, I
2022.
don't think anybody really knows.
Yeah.
And there's still
So,
arguments that it's
still
perpetuating.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think too, yeah, like that's another point to be made is that it doesn't just affect actors. Like while actors
Mhm.
are being devastated by this, and it is really affecting the livelihoods of a lot of actors, it's also affecting our IATSE crew.
Yeah.
They can't work on a SAG project because there's no SAG projects going on. So where do they
Right.
go? So yeah, like a lot of people have
Yeah,
lost
you got a
work.
whole industry that is basically
Hmm.
stopped right now
Right, studios,
because
rental companies.
yeah, what are you going to do if there's nobody to shoot? You
Hmm.
know, if there's no players to tell the stories.
Right.
Um because it's all a collaborative like puzzle piece, and
Hmm.
you know, or machine I guess is a better way. You take a piece of the machine away, it
Right.
kind of the whole machine stops, and you've taken two pieces of the machine away because you have WGA and SAG.
Right. Yeah. So
So
it's been hard, and I wish I had like a some foresight to see when this would end, but I know that like even if I could guess, I could be entirely off. So
yeah, and I don't think it's even necessary to like take
right.
a guess,
Getting
you
your hopes
know.
up doesn't really help.
Right. I know. I got an email the other day that was like talking about how the class was going to be discounted. And if we went
Mm,
ahead and paid for it, even like the class starts in October,
yeah.
even if, and I was like, and they're like, unless the strike is still going on in October. I was like, oh man, like,
Mm.
you just don't know.
Well, and that has been a great thing to see is, I mean, we've always known that we're a community, like we're one big family, but being able to join together and care for each other and support
Mm-hmm.
each other, like there's a lot of funds that have been created and things like that. There's classes that are going on discount. Recently I saw a show that was pay what you can. Like our shows are usually this price,
Yeah.
but like if you have been really impacted by the strikes, we just want you to be within the creative community, and
Right.
it's no pressure that you have to pay $35 for a theater ticket.
Yeah.
So I think that's been wonderful to see. And then also, I mean, going back to independent projects, you know, of course, like we all want to be paid and we all have to make a living, but it's also nice being able to just support each other and say, hey, I've got a lighting kit if somebody needs to borrow it for something they've been
Yeah.
dying to shoot and like it's not going anywhere else. Um, I'm happy to be an extra for you if you need people because you can't hire a casting service, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think there is in on the positive side of it, like shifting to a positive perspective, we are
Hmm.
seeing that like we do band together, and
Yeah.
at the root of the industry, like there is a community.
Hmm.
It's part of what makes all this worth it is like the people that we get to work with. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
um I know we can't like promote any SAG projects or anything like that,
Yeah.
but is there anything we just talked about how you're potentially doing some independent stuff, some
Hmm.
creative stuff? Is there anything that you do want to say like, hey, like I'm working on this and I'm excited about this or
Yeah, I have a short film that's going out at Sidewalk. It's an LGBTQ film.
oh cool.
Yeah, and it's really sweet and lovely, and it's been in progress for a while. So
Okay.
I'm really excited for that to come out. And then I just shot a film with a friend that she put it together, and it was very quick, but it's with Nicole Lockley, and she just has such a powerful voice when she writes and tackles very difficult topics that people always hesitate to discuss. And so
Yeah.
I'm really excited for that to come out. And I'm really hoping that she turns it into a series whether they're all interconnected or not, I think that she has such a very unique way of being able to bring those topics to the table without it being, I mean, definitely like pointing fingers, but also allowing the conversation to open up in a safe space.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm excited for that to come out. I don't, we just wrapped on Tuesday. So
Okay.
it's going to probably be a while before it comes out, but looking forward to that.
Heyo.
Yeah.
What's your Instagram? Because I know you promote a lot of stuff on your
Yeah,
Instagram.
I post just about everything on my Instagram. I finally had to make a Finsta though, because I know that there's like goofy photos that I want to post and not necessarily want the entire world to see.
Got you. Got you.
So, but my public Instagram is Mallory Ivy. It's just my first and last name, which is
Yeah.
very easy to remember. All of my social media is just my first and last name.
I guess like, dude, I like struggled to get my first and last name.
Are you
I
serious?
Yeah, so mine is Zill Bachman. I did
Right,
Liz backwards.
which is so fun.
Yeah, that's like a thing that a nickname I was given in high school. Complete sidebar,
Ah!
but um but yeah, I struggled to I think I couldn't get Liz Bachman. So anyway, not the point. Mallory
Interesting.
Ivy, guys, look for her content. She's awesome. I love her so much. I'm excited that I got to sit here and talk with you.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening, if you enjoyed this, if you could rate or review the podcast, that would be awesome. It just helps me keep doing what I'm doing. And I look forward to talking to whoever I talk to in the next episode.
I'm excited to see who you talk to the next episode.
Right?
Oh,
Thanks, Mel.
of course, babe. So good to see you.